Hello, everybody, and welcome to Behind the Camera with AndyGames. This is the podcast where I interview streamers and content creators with the sole purpose of getting to know the person a little bit better behind the camera. Today, my guest is AustinH2714. Austin, thank you for taking the time. It is good to see you. How are we doing today?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for inviting me on to be on your podcast. I've
Oh,
been looking forward to this.
of
So thank
course,
you.
man. Oh, of course, absolutely. It is my pleasure to have you, and I'm very excited for this one. We definitely have a lot to talk about, just in terms of a lot of things to do with your gaming and just even bits about you personally that I feel like a lot of
Mhm.
people probably don't really know, and that's the whole kind of the basis of this is to just sort of get to know you a little bit better and just sort of have fun while we do it.
Yeah.
So that being said, of course, let's take us back to the very beginning. Take us back to your gaming history. Like when you started gaming, what sort of stuff that you sort of like might have grew up playing, and then how that's kind of led into you starting to stream.
Yeah, so this honestly goes all the way back to when I was younger with me and my siblings. We had a Nintendo 64 and a PlayStation 2. Those were our two main consoles. My earliest memories are playing Mario Kart 64 with my brother, Mario Tennis, even like playing Super Mario 64. That's just kind of been the highlight of my childhood. And going to a different console, Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront II, just different games that we played. It was my brother and I, or it was my cousin and I. Just whenever I got a chance when I was younger, I would just play games, and that love for video games has kind of always been there. Just watching my siblings play games and watching other relatives. So yeah, I would say ever since a young age, I played video games. And that just continued as I got older. I invested in an Xbox 360 and then a PlayStation 4. And then finally, I invested into a gaming PC. And then now on this gaming laptop that I run off of now. So it's kind of just going steps up, steps above of the previous console that I had. And when it comes to streaming itself, when I was in high school, I started streaming just on the side whenever I wanted to. It was mainly just Minecraft. I was a big Minecraft
Yeah.
player, that I would spend a lot of time, and they're deleted now, but I used to like release YouTube videos just playing Minecraft. And then once I graduated high school and went to college, that kind of stopped. And then in January of 2023, as I'm sure anyone, maybe even you, have experienced this, that doom scroll at like in the middle of the night. You can't sleep, can't do anything. So I am scrolling TikTok, not being able to sleep, and T-Noom pops up on my For You page. He's speedrunning Super Mario, and I'm like, this is sick. You know, that the whole I've always, video games obviously been a part of my life, but like there's always been a fascination about speedrunning
Yeah.
and just finishing games fast. That just seems like a really cool thing. And watching even different games, like you can do that. You can pull off this trick and beat the level minutes faster. So watching Toonum stream, I was like, this is awesome. Like, and at that time, I was really starting to watch Star Wars Battlefront gameplay because that was
Yeah.
my childhood. Star Wars Battlefront 2, 2005. That was my childhood. That's what I played on the PlayStation 2. That's what I played with my brother and my cousin all the time. So I was like, what if I speedran this? I don't have access to Super Mario 64, the emulator yet.
Yeah.
So what if I speedran this? I have this game, so that's what I did. And early 2023, that's when I found T Noom, and I tuned into his streams almost every day at that point. And then summer of 2023 is when I started streaming Star Wars Battlefront 2, and it kind of just blossomed over that. And it's kind of a surprise. You know, I never expected this to happen. This was always like a side thing where I would stream in front of 3, 4 viewers. I'm doing what I love. That's what
Yeah.
matters.
Of course.
And over the past year and a half now, it's gone to places that I just never expected it to go.
Oh, for sure. Like, so did you know what speedrunning was before, like, you find Teenum, or what was like that your first introduction to speedrunning was through Mario
It was
64?
it was not my first introduction, but it
Mhm.
had been a while.
Yeah.
Just because like the YouTube algorithm and however it works, I've seen videos here and there of Super Mario and of Star Wars Battlefront 2. That's actually how I was like, wait, I can speedrun this? Like this seems like a great idea. So it wasn't my first exposure, but
Yeah.
it was, you could say it was the benchmark for me to start like kickstart where I started speedrunning.
Yeah, for sure. And like I think as well, considering that you already knew about speedrunning, whenever you are like scrolling through TikTok, and 100% I'm the same, like the same thing happened to me. That for me, that's how I got actually exposed to speedrunning. But in
Mhm.
your case, I'm sure it's a case of like, oh, I've seen other games speedrun, but this is like a new game, a game that I'm already familiar with. You're seeing that in like a new light, because like especially with what you're saying about um Mario 64, all the games that you'd have played with family back in the day, it's like so many years later, you see this game again, and it's like getting popular all of a
Mhm.
sudden, and you're seeing it played in a way that you've never seen it played before, and all of a sudden you're like, wow. And I think I describe it as seminal, because it's like you see it, you want to do it, and especially if you've already got that
Yeah.
prior interest, you've already played the game, and in your case, you're already into speedrunning, you already sort of knew about it. Like that's kind of it's like a match made in heaven almost.
And the first thing that I realized, and I'm pretty sure this goes for almost anyone, once you start, you can't stop.
A
You
hundred
really can't.
percent.
Like you're watching these streamers, you're like, wow, like this is wild. And then like as I've gotten better, and like just watching other streamers while I'm like, I can do that. It's not it's not as hard as I thought it was. I can do that.
Yep.
And then like that motivation, just how it is for like real life sports or like anything, honestly, just getting better step by step. And like like I said, once you start you can't stop. And it's just like you start rolling down a hill and then you pick up speed and you just good luck stopping.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like on the Mario 64 front, it's safe to say that you've kind of more branched out into the co-op side of things.
Mhm.
With It's Just Me. That's like kind of
What
your
a
main Mario
legend.
64. Yeah, oh, he's such a we all know him. He is an incredible guy. Great Mario player, all around great guy, great streamer. Um, so what was the sort of motivation to sort of not really do the base game as such, but more so the co-op and like that sort of constant like collaboration side of it?
This has been my mentality even when I started with Star Wars almost 2 years ago. I hate practice. I just do. I would rather spend a ton of time actually doing runs
Yeah.
than like sitting down for an hour or two playing the same star over and over. You know, and is that a bad mentality? Sure. Practice goes a long way. But like co-op uh opened up such an opportunity to where you can get better at the game. You can
Yeah.
practice, but you're also doing runs. You're getting your reps in, and then just having someone like It's Just Me, having someone there to like even calm you down or like just laugh. If you ever just watch us do a run, like we're making jokes. We're not really even focused on the run.
Yeah.
We're kind of just going and seeing where the run takes us. But yeah, the collaboration part which you brought up is just fun.
Mhm.
It's like you're in your childhood home living room playing with your siblings. You're having fun doing that. And I think co-op allows you to kind of like go back to those days, but as well as entertain that speedrunning side of you.
Oh, for sure, 100%. And like it does kind of feel like something that we never would have got as kids. Like I think playing Mario 64, it being like solely a one player game. Like I think everybody at the time definitely wanted it to be like a multiplayer, or like have some form of
Yeah.
multiplayer. And that's like kind of that we're getting that chance now that we didn't have as kids, which I think is incredible. But I mean, to go back to what you said as well about like being a bad mentality, hating practice, I have to say I disagree. Like I think For me personally, I would say I am happy to watch somebody be incredibly good at a game, and also enjoy that game myself. But as long as you enjoy it, I think if you sometimes,
Right.
because sometimes people when they practice and practice and practice, that's how they enjoy the game. But
Mhm.
like, I'd be the same as you. I hate practice as well, unless it's like offline and I'm just kind of chilling out. Whole different kind of thing
Mhm.
for me. But I feel like I enjoy the game more when I'm just playing it similar to yourself. But if I was to practice,
Right.
I would hate it because I feel like there's only everybody's like sort of capacity for learning, their ability is a lot different. So,
Mhm.
excuse me. So it's like, at what point do you just kind of, what is it you're trying to achieve with it? You know what I mean? Are you trying to achieve like
Mhm.
world records and stuff, which of course you are no stranger to in the
Mhm.
co-op world, and of course in Star Wars Battlefront. So tell us about Star Wars Battlefront then, because
Mhm.
I kind of feel like most people who would know us mutually, and even people here who are watching like live on Twitch at the moment, would probably know you as having run Mario mainly. But
Mhm.
the Star Wars Battlefront 2, you have countless categories on the leaderboards, very high placed with a number of world records as well. Tell us about the speedrun categories. Like, tell us about the game. Just give us a sort of background in terms of what it's like to run compared to like other games that you might have run as well.
Yeah, so man, I don't know where to start, to be honest. Just like talking about the base game itself, there's really three main things you can do. There's the campaign mode, which if any of you are familiar with the Star Wars movie series, it actually takes you through as being a clone in the Clone Wars, takes you through Order 66 when the Jedi's gets slaughtered, and then it takes you through the early days of the Empire, and it takes you all the campaign finishes on Hoth, which is the beginning of episode 5. So the campaign itself takes you from the early when the clones were created to Hoth. Just it as a kid, and even now, like, I'm playing it fast, but like it still takes me back where it's like this was serious. Like, it's a movie, sure, there's stories about it, but like this was a real thing, and the game, in my opinion, successfully puts you in the place of the clone. It's like you are the clone.
Yeah.
You are going through the trials and tribulations of war. Um, so that's the most popular category in Star Wars Battlefront 2 speedrunning is what we call any percent. It's just the campaign. And then there's two other game modes. There's Galactic Conquest, which basically you are put on a map, and you can either play as, if you're playing as the rebels, you go against the Empire, vice versa. If you play as a Republic, you go against the CIS, vice versa.
Yep.
Um, and I think you start off with 3 planets, and you want to control all 13. So it's kind of like Risk,
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good comparison. So yeah, you just want total galaxy domination. And then last category is instant action, which is just you can pick whatever levels you want to do. And you can play either Conquest, which is capture and command post, or they have capture the flag as well.
Oh, okay.
So
There's a lot to it then, which is always
yeah.
good. I think whenever you're speedrunning a game, you want there to be a lot to it. You want there to
Mhm.
be so many categories, category extensions to just because as you know yourself, like whenever you speedrun a game, you're seeing it in an entirely different light, and especially when it's a game that you've
Mhm.
grown up with.
Right.
So like in terms of like the actual gameplay, is there like a lot of speedrun tech to it in the same way that there would be for the likes of Mario 64, or is it just essentially quick movement and things like that? Like, is it really like are there glitches or anything there to exploit RNG manipulation, etc., etc.? What sort of stuff are we talking about for it?
So I personally think that Super Mario 64 is way harder than Star Wars Battlefront.
Really?
Except Star Wars Battlefront has more RNG than Super Mario. So
Okay.
the way that I think of it is that I would rather play Super Mario because I know that if there's a mistake, it's my fault, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if in Star Wars, if there's a mistake, like just for an example, the fastest conquest time on Coruscant, which is one of the worlds, is 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Yep.
There are times when you're just playing where that can be a 3 minute or a four
Oh, right.
minute,
Okay.
and you're out of control. It's not like you did anything different. you can take the same path, you could do the same things, but sometimes there's just an enemy trooper that wanders off and captures a command post, and you can neutralize everything, but as soon as that one troop captures a command post, all 30 of its friends are now
Oh
spawning.
wow.
So now you're in chaos mode. So, you can do everything right and still be 3 minutes behind. Whereas in Mario, I would say most of the time, there's coin RNG and stuff like that. But like in Mario, if you're losing time, it's probably because through a fault of your own.
That's interesting. I kind of like that though. Like I like the fact that it's luck based and RNG based.
Mhm.
You can do so much. Um, but is there even anything to like stop certain aspects of RNG happening, or is it just a
Um,
case of like you follow the steps, similar to like any speedrunning, you just follow the steps and hope for the best.
Yeah, so it genuinely depends. There's actually like I tweeted early in January, and I still think it's true that 2025 is gonna be such a good year for Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh,
And like we're 40 days into the year, and I still think it's the case. Just with new strategies that are developed, and we've got
okay.
some people in we've got some people in the community that are like looking into the code to like maybe determine the AI behavior
Oh
and
wow,
see like,
okay.
okay, if this happens, then this will stop the AI from doing this. And like there's certain tweaks where like if you do something, you will actually stop them from like capture command post or whatever. So like that's kind of like the super technical side of it.
Yeah.
But to kind of answer your question about steps, for the campaign, it's basically just following this. It gives you objectives,
Hmm.
mission objectives to kind of progress through the level. And there's certain glitches. I know I didn't answer this when you asked earlier. There's certain glitches that where you can like do like two objectives ahead. Like
Yeah.
just for an example on Coruscant, that's the world that comes to mind. There's a 2 minute auto scroller where you had to defend the library. Well, if you get rid of all the enemies within 15-20 seconds, you can actually do what we call an auto turret glitch, and you can pick up a holocron that you shouldn't be able to,
Okay.
and that objective is two ahead. So if you already pick up that holocron, you're basically skipping ahead and you're saving time because you're doing it within a 2 minute time span that you have to wait out anyways. So
Okay.
doing something within those 2 minutes to help save time in the future, that's just kind of one way to kind of stop RNG,
Yeah.
to answer your question, but it helps you play a little bit faster as well.
I like that. Like I like hearing about different games that I don't really see anybody else running. Like, because obviously, like saying that there's a whole community, they're still looking into this, and the fact that like it sounds as if this, like you say, it's going to be a good year for it. It's going to kind of grow in terms of new strats being developed. Like the leaderboards could be a lot more active this year, and even like from what I've seen on like speedrun.com, like it is relatively competitive. All of the categories, there's like not very many categories that are just 4 or 5 people, like which you do
Right.
see with like a lot of games. Like so that's kind of like certainly like a big positive for any game that's on that has leaderboards, is you kind of want there to be that sort of community for it. You want there to be
Mhm.
like people's runs that like you can learn off. You want it to be even like sort of having the community discords and stuff, and people can go in, they can share strats, be like, oh look, I found
Right.
this here. More people are going to go run it, and more people are going to kind of be interested, and with that, it kind of snowballs. Similar enough to Mario
Yeah.
as well, like we've seen and been exposed to ourselves. Do you
Right.
think that like more people that you and I would know like could get into the game or may get into the game, or do you feel like it's solely gonna just be your thing like going forward this year?
No, so I've talked with Craigie. He's expressed some interest in running with Star Wars Battlefront, and honestly, like if anyone wants to, like it's on Steam, but you can also play like if you've got it on your Xbox or PlayStation. We accept runs of that
Mhm.
console as well. And like in terms of getting into it, I don't. I haven't experienced this because I speed run Star Wars and Super Mario. That's it. So I haven't experienced this, but I know there are some communities out there that kind of like gatekeep strats.
Oh yeah.
But like I feel like the Star Wars Battlefront 2 community is one of the better ones.
Mhm.
Like we're sharing strats all the time. Like if there's a day in the Discord where there's not someone messaging like, "Hey, what about this?" or "Have we tried this?" then I'd be shocked. Especially recently, just because like we've had a huge influx of new runners and like them just asking questions and you know the the old guard, as I would say, the kind of like teaching the strats and like, oh no, we haven't thought about this. How does it stack up against world record times or even like fifth place times? Does that save time?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And
So
sorry.
no, I was just gonna finish by saying that like I think Battlefront 2 community is like one of the best in like encouraging each other and like not keeping things to ourselves. We want to see everyone else succeed.
Absolutely. And I think that's important with like a speedrun community.
Mhm.
Is just being wholesome, welcoming, encouraging more people to join, because I definitely think I think this with the Mario 64 sort of community, if you want to call it that, is that there is a lot of toxicity within it. As you say, a lot of people gatekeeping strats and stuff. But then I also think there is a degree of it. Not really with anybody that like we might know as such, but there is like a degree of it where people start it because it's a popular thing to do.
Mhm.
And you can kind of tell because they never last doing it. They just kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
you see people coming up, and like the amount of times I've had like people sharing like lives to me on TikTok. Oh, a new Mario runner. And I'm kind of like, cool. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
great, fair enough. Actually, I
Mhm.
remember there was this fella. I'm not gonna name them by name, but like, um, they started streaming Mario 64 simply because they wanted to promote something else about their stream. Um,
Mhm.
they literally went on record to say, I hate this game. I don't want to speedrun it, but it's popular at the moment, and I'm trying to get my music out there. I'm
Mhm.
like, what the hell? Like, why are you doing that? Like, what do you achieve by doing that? Because I have so many people who were like sharing this guy's live to me. I'd seen him before, and I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
cool. You seem like a nice guy. But then as soon as I found that out, I was like, why do it if you hate it? Like, and I feel like that sounds like what the difference with like Star Wars Battlefront is. It's like, um, I suppose because it's a less popular game than Mario 64, like people are doing it because there's a pure love of that game. It's something that they grew up
Mhm.
with. It's a big part of them. Similar with yourself. And I
Yeah.
kind of think that it is important to have a community that are just kind of like, let's make something of this game that
Right.
is almost a bit niche.
Right. And I'm kind of on the same wavelength as you. Why are you streaming? Like it's personal gain. That's all it
Oh yeah,
is.
a
You know,
hundred
you
percent.
you brought it up yourself. It's personal gain, but like why? It's not only a waste of your time because you hate it and you're verbal that you hate it, but it's a waste of anyone else's time that like
Yep.
want to watch Mario, want to watch people who enjoy the game, love the game. I think not only do like people want to watch speedrunners, like the top speedrunners, like Cheese, Callie, and Sweegie and stuff like that. As much as they say they hate the game, I always say that I hate the game just
Oh
because
yeah.
but like it's the love of the game.
Yep.
Yeah, we're there for the speedrunner, but like those streamers have built such an audience to like-minded people of loving the childhood game that they played all the time. And it's not, I say I get it. I obviously don't agree with it, like I said.
Yeah.
It's just, it's so frustrating when you run into someone like that.
Oh, for sure. And it doesn't it's not organic, and like I think
Right.
streaming
Yes.
anything should be organic.
Hmm.
No matter what it is, I think it should come from. Well, I mean, it's like I say this to everybody. Like always have the right reasons to do it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, and I've seen like a lot of people who they should stream other things because that's their game. But for some reason, it just seems to be Mario 64. Now, that's probably because obviously the amount of people that we've been exposed to over the
Hmm.
course of the last 2 years.
Yep.
And that's just the way that our algorithms are kind of geared, which, do you know what, is like totally fair. Like that's just how they get you, on like all these apps and stuff. But you see like someone is like kind of, you can kind of tell they're doing it because they've seen other people doing it and it gets them good
Yep.
views. And then the next day you'll see them like ripping into another game, but like absolutely like tearing it to shreds, really bossing it, and you're
Right.
thinking, no, this is entertaining.
Yeah.
Are you
Yeah.
like, I don't know, but I guess to each their own. Like that's what sort of streaming is a kind of strange thing, and I think as well because it's so accessible to like more and more people in this day and age that of course you're going to have like some overlap with a lot of people's content. People are going to be same things because some people feel like sort of certain things are more successful than others, which
Right.
some people just kind of have to learn the hard way.
Yeah. And I feel like streaming is such a unique opportunity. You know, everyone says like in general for life, like do something you enjoy so that work isn't work, you know?
Yep.
Streaming is one of those things where like you could do that, you know? You can play the game that you love, you can listen to the music that you love, you can do whatever, you know? But as soon as like yeah, the prospect of getting money, you know, through subs, bits, whatever, like that's always in the back of your mind, even like for me, you know, like
Yeah.
okay, what if this turns into something? What if, you know, I can quit my job and do full-time streaming, you know? That it I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't think about that. I
Mhm.
think everyone at our level thinks about that.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
But in at the bottom line is if you're not doing what you love, then why do it? You
Oh,
know?
yeah. Of
And
course.
streaming is that one unique thing where it allows you to do what you love, you know? Work in life, you know, sometimes like work in general, like you need money. So there's sometimes you can't do what you love. Streaming is that one thing where you can, and it bothers me when people don't do it, you know?
No, 100%. I couldn't agree with you more because something that I've always said, especially since I started streaming, was in terms of like my job and my work, I'm like, I don't care if I don't love it, as long as I don't hate it. But if I don't love it, fine. As long as it allows me to do something that I do love.
Yeah.
And like that's kind of what I have with streaming. It's been a while since I've like properly streamed, but
Mhm.
sometimes you need to kind of take a step back. But then it's like, do you find yourself that say you just sort of you sit down at your computer to play a game, like at some point over the course of the time you're playing, do you think I could stream this right now? This would be pretty cool. This would be pretty cool to
Right.
share with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think the biggest deterrent, and you know, it's always like rule number one as you get into streaming, like don't get discouraged by
Yeah,
2 viewers, 3 viewers, 1 viewer, you know? You never know what that could lead to. You know, as much as
100%.
like um you want to stream to tens, hundreds, thousands of people, you know, you got to start somewhere. You always got to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And the biggest thing that I'm sure you've talked about is building a community that supports you and will be there for you no matter what. Then you will start to see that exponential growth because oh, this streamer has 10 viewers, you know, sometimes it catches the algorithm or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow, his or her chat is really really popping, you know, they're all like friendly. I'm going to introduce myself, and then building that connection with new viewers and stuff, you know, that's what coming back to your point, you know, like oh, I could stream this right now, you know, why don't you, you know,
Yeah.
if you love playing it, showcase your love.
100%. 100%. And I think as well, like I've noticed this quite recently. Like ever since I've started myself doing different things, like more I get different people coming in to my streams. And whether I see them again or not, maybe not. But at the same time, it's still an extra pair of eyes on your stream.
Mhm.
And it's the sort of things like you say, don't be discouraged by like just having one, two, three people coming on your stream because it's the same. And I think this is why people say consistency is such an important thing because See if you are streaming every day, every other day, or two, whatever your schedule may be. If you're doing that, you don't know who is like just scrolling through Twitter. You don't know who is just Twitter, sorry, Twitch, who's just scrolling through Twitch, looking because people do go out of the way to look for channels that have less viewers to just check them out and see kind of like people do that. Like
Right.
I sometimes do that. I know a lot of people who do. I think it is just like a fairly normal thing, but you never know who is going to come into your stream one day. And I think that's why they say consistency is important.
Right.
And like
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah, and for sure it is like it's a two-way thing. I think as a streamer, you need to be receptive of the people who are coming in, for better or for worse sometimes, obviously. It's like how do you deal with kindness versus how do you deal with someone just coming in being a dick? Like
Right. Yeah.
it happens to us all. It's and I kind of think that's like a big thing on how communities kind of start and grow is somebody coming in and feeling like this is a good place for me. This is somewhere I feel like I could, escape for a bit. Which
Right.
as a streamer, as you would know, is like it's such a nice, humbling thing. Like
Yeah.
somebody is willing to take their time to come and watch you play a video game on the internet. It's awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, it's like as you like are a part of communities and you build communities, it's always refreshing when it's someone you don't know.
Yeah.
Like not like a big streamer, but like just someone you don't know. They come in, say hi, like, and then they show up again,
Um,
and you're like, wait a minute, you know. And like even on the flip side of that, where like they come in for like 3 streams in a row, and then you don't see them, and then you see their name like 2 months later,
mhm.
and I was like, wait a minute, you know, like I
Yeah,
hope you're doing well, you know, I haven't heard from you, you know, I hope everything's good. It's that is, you know, to pay off your point, it's always refreshing. Like, hey, they chose to come back, you know?
absolutely. Like I actually have a very relevant story to that. My first ever stream was July 2023. I got raided by somebody who I have no idea, didn't know who they were. I got raided and I was thinking this person must know me, but then no, not a clue. And and I didn't realize that this person had come in with the raid, but they were like a big part of the community for a long time. But then things changed in their life and they couldn't really join anymore, which is, it's fine. It happens. And some 2 years later, or maybe about 18 months later, I should say, I go into this person's stream, like for the first time, like probably ever. I know. And I was like, oh yeah, you rated, like my first ever stream, you rated my channel, this, that, and the other, how you do it. Wanted to say thanks, this, that, and the other.
Right.
And all of a sudden, the next message that comes up was from this person who'd been in my community for such a long time. And I was like, it's like two and two clicked together. It was just like, this guy here like came in originally with that raid, and I
Yeah.
had absolutely no idea.
Uh-huh.
Like, and it's the sort of thing you see their name come back and again, especially when you are starting out as well. It's just nice to know that people want to stick around and people feel like that it's a good place to be. And um, the only time I will say that when that's not a good thing is when somebody comes in and is all like, "Oh, hi, I love your stream." You think, "Oh, this is cool," a new follower, this, that, and the other. Oh, by the way, I'm a graphic designer. Can I do? It's just like.
Oh, you, you are there's like I oh, you're gonna get me started. There's it happened. There was like a 3 week stretch where like it would happen every other stream, and by the end of that 3 week stretch, you like picked up on like the commonalities,
Oh
and
yeah.
they're like hello, and you're like oh hi blah blah blah, you know how are you doing? And they say good, and then you're like okay good, and then you see the next message from them. Can I ask you a question? And I'm like, I don't want any graphics. I'm all good. I've got my own graphic designer. I appreciate the follow. I appreciate everything, but I do not need your graphics.
Oh, do you know, I've lost all patience for them. So I'll get like a friend request on Discord these days, and I'll see it, and I'll just be like, you spot them from a million miles away, and
Yeah.
so literally, and I just kind of like I should just ignore them and like immediately block them, but it's the sort of thing. Sometimes it happens, and like, you know what, I'm gonna just fuck it, right?
I'm gonna entertain it. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I want to
exactly,
have
right?
fun. You know.
So I'll accept the friend request And then it'll literally just be, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" "Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?" "Oh, I'm good. I'm good." "So, well, do you stream?" I'm like, look at my username. I mean, what do you think? You know what I mean? I mean, you've
Yep.
added me on Discord. Like, what do you think? But and then obviously they drop that kind of that line, and then like I was always nice to them before, but they started getting too pushy. Like I'd say no, and they'd be like, "Oh, when can I start doing work?" I'm like, "No, stop it."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I've got to the point now where they'll just literally they'll say hello, how are you, all this, but I'll literally just my reply to them will be, "Are you a graphic designer looking to outsource work?" And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you've got a really good eye for this. How did you know?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not interested. Fuck off." Literally
my,
just,
my,
and they're like, "Oh,
my
okay, no worries."
my favorite, like you just talking about Discord, my favorite is like when you get added and you're like trying to like, okay, who is this? And
Yeah.
then you see one mutual server, and then that server is server that you lurk in. You know, you're a part of the community, but you've sent one, maybe two messages
Yep,
in that Discord, and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna. No, we're done.
of
I don't need.
course.
I don't need any more.
Oh yeah, like because I've noticed these days as well, they seem to have less and less in their bios. It's like they're trying
Mhm.
to like hide in plain sight so that you don't realize what it is that they're trying to do. They're trying to like bait a conversation out of you first before they kind of like drop that hammer on you. Something that I've noticed as well is that my brother, he streams, and like he streams on like his podcast Twitch account, and there's a
Mhm.
few of them do at different times. But it seems to be every time he streams, he gets one of these people come in. It's just literally just like, "Oh, hi, I love your streams, this, that, and the other. I lurk all the time here, yada yada yada." And it's the sort of thing. It's like you said before about you sort of see the similarities between like the messages that they've like previously sent,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's just kind of like, but they'll talk for about 15 minutes. You really kind of just sort of reel it in, and then all of a sudden it's just like, "So yeah, I was just looking at your banners and stuff, and
Yeah.
I kind of think they could do with a bit of work if you want to hire someone professional." And like, how fucking backhanded is that? Like,
Yeah.
literally, it's
Right.
just like, "Oh, that's oh, that's such a good banner you've got for a baby." It's just like, let a professional do it. It's just like, ah, no, piss off.
Even if you can do a better job, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like I paid someone who I trust to do this for me. So of
Mm-hmm.
course, like I would only prefer them, even if what you can offer me is better. I do not care. I
Oh
just
yeah.
don't. I'd rather give my money to a friend who can do this. And by the way, it's not as shitty as you think it is. You know, like
Exactly.
yeah, I just
Ah.
oh they drive me up a wall. Like it's so bad.
Like I get that it's like it is people trying to make a bit of coin, but like have a bit of fucking dignity when you do it. Like Jesus
Yep.
Christ. But
Yeah.
speaking of the whole production side of things, which I
Mhm.
suppose you could say graphic designing is quotation marks for those listening. Um, you recently put out a tweet about assistant producing a national broadcast. I'm assuming
Mhm.
that is part of your job in terms of like
Yes.
broadcasting and tell us about that because that's huge. Like, I mean, tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I'm super blessed to even be able to do that. You know, to even be able to say that, like, hey, I was an associate producer on a national broadcast. It's like so insane. So yeah, basically, um, man, how do I want to describe this? So my job currently is a production assistant for a university in Indiana, and my job is to make graphics for sports broadcasts. It is whenever I say that, it is confused with graphic designing. Like I'm not making anything from scratch.
Yeah.
ESPN, um, they have legitimate designers in their company that like send out a project with all of what we call shells. Like it's a basic template, and all you have to do when you get this project is fill in the information. So I don't design any graphics, but whenever I say I am a graphics person, that's what I do. I fill in the information. And if you're ever watching a sports broadcast, like any stat pops that you see, like, hey, so and so has 15 points, 10 rebounds, just an
Yeah.
example. Or this person went 4 for 4, he's got a home run, two singles, that is me. So anytime you're watching a sports broadcast, if you're seeing those little tidbits or like anything that shows up on the screen, like telling a story about a player or like upcoming schedules or standings or whatever, that is who I am. So at my current job, it's called production assistant, but it's basically associate producing for what
Yeah.
we call digital games. So there's an ESPN streaming platform. So like the games that I work at my job is on the streaming platform, and through connections, and I've been doing this for 5 years now. Through connections, I've had the opportunity to freelance for other
Oh,
companies,
nice.
production companies that solely focus on doing the ESPN broadcast. And as I've gotten more reps and as I've gotten more, opportunity and practice, they've given me a longer leash and have given me those opportunities to work on national broadcast. And yeah, I've Wednesday and Thursday of this week was the first time I got to be an associate producer for a national broadcast, which is surreal to even think about. Like I don't know how I don't have the numbers on how many people were watching that game,
Yeah.
but to even like, holy crap, my name is technically attached to that is
Yeah.
just something that is so awesome to me.
For sure. And especially if you go back and watch that back, you see your graphic coming up that
Hmm.
set the time in to come up and stat and everything with the whatever. I'm sure, guessing it works in terms of like a particular timestamp, like I said, the camera pans to a
Hmm.
certain player. It's like, okay, put the graphic up there kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, that's something, that's something that you have done. You have like programmed to happen at a certain point. Like that's absolutely incredible. And the fact that millions of people no doubt have
Right.
seen that. Um,
Yeah.
so what sort of sports then does that sort of cover? Is that like everything? Because I know you said something about the streaming platform. So would that cover things like esports as well, or is it just like the college basketball, football, etc.?
Yeah, so I've done I if I had time to count, I mean I've done tens of sports. I've done baseball broadcasts, softball broadcasts, both men's and women's basketball. I've done lacrosse, I've done football, I've done soccer, I've done field hockey.
Mm,
So just depending on the season, I'm very focused right now in the collegiate aspect. So basically just the sports from August to May.
yeah.
So we've got like we call it three different seasons. We got August to November, which is your fall sports, so soccer, field hockey, football. And then we're in the middle of our winter season, so both men's and women's basketball. And then in a month now, actually, we're starting baseball and softball. So yeah, my main focus right now is collegiate sports. So there's a nice little break from June to the mid of August where we don't do anything, and that's when I can go take vacation and stuff. But
Yeah.
from August to May is a pretty busy point in my life.
But still, that sounds like incredible. Like just and so are you watching the broadcast live as you do your graphics?
So we are the ones basically sending it out to live. So like we have our own cameras, we have like it's all in a control room. So like a lot of I would say like 85% of the graphics are pre-built. Like, okay,
Hmm.
this player has had a really good last 5 games, or this guy is an international player, let's talk about him. But I would say 15% of the graphics are like, okay, this player who averages 2 points a game has 15. We need
Hmm.
to talk about that.
Okay.
So I would say most of it is like premeditated on like, okay, how can we navigate the broadcast to
Yeah.
kind of lead to this story or lead to another story. But yeah, sometimes you just got to go on the fly, and whatever you're seeing happen in game, like obviously there's a delay from the streaming,
Yeah.
whatever the I'm losing the word for it, but like you're basically what you're seeing is what we're seeing. So like anything like eh, while some things are premeditated and we've got built, there are some things where like if you're seeing it and you're like, wait, I wonder will they do something about it? Like there's a good chance like, okay, we need to do something about that.
Hmm. Okay, that's
So
interesting. So okay, so like just for an example, so say you're talking about football or soccer, for example. and whenever a player gets like a yellow or red card, like a graphic will come up saying they've had X number of cards or X, in this season. Would that be something that's premeditated and ready to go just in case, or is it only like certain things? Is it, I'm kind of trying. I guess I'm trying to gauge how much is premeditated. How much do you guys have prepared to go out like at a moment's notice? Is it a sort of case of if it could possibly happen, have something ready, or is this where then the whole doing things on the fly comes from?
So it's a mixture of both, especially when it comes to soccer or football. The advancements of technology, I would say that most of our broadcasts are run off of Excel sheets or Google Sheets,
Oh, okay.
like we put like all that premeditated stuff, like we put a player's stats, we put a team's record, we put the team's roster, like all of that lives in an Excel sheet.
Yep.
So like going off of your example, there's a section where you can fill out how many yellow cards or red cards a player has. And because that information lives in an Excel sheet, what I was talking about earlier with ESPN kind of sending out shells, they have something built for you to where you just put in a player number and it'll say like whoever's ninth yellow card of the season.
Oh, okay.
And in the Excel sheet you say that they have 8 yellow cards, but that shell is already built to advance one. So if it
Yep.
happens, all you have to do is find it and you can send it right away.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah,
interesting. I love that because
yeah.
it's something like I watch a lot of sports myself, so this is something that like is so fascinating to me because I've always wondered how do they get these in so quick? Like how do they just? But then
Mhm.
obviously it makes sense. It makes sense. So like that's interesting to sort of know. Which kind of actually leads me quite nicely onto another thought I've had. You were recently at the Royal Rumble,
Mhm.
live in person, which is incredible
Yes.
because it was a
Yeah.
brilliant event. So I can I'm jealous, I have to say.
Yeah.
Um, so something that a lot of people took from that. Now, I don't know what it shows on the screen itself, whenever you're at the live events, but on the TV broadcast itself, they'd introduced like similar thing. It was like a bottom banner at the
Mhm.
on the TV, and it had the live stats. Um, so that's the sort of thing that you work with. I don't know if you've seen this yourself or if you've watched it on playback, but if you're looking at a live statistic kind of thing like that and it does change intermittently, would that be like an absolute nightmare to deal with? Or is it just a matter of having the graphics pre-built and just kind of swapping them in and out of broadcast?
A mixture of both.
Hmm.
Some things like I can only imagine what the WWE has at their fingertips
Of
to
course.
make their jobs like way easier. I would say that probably most of their stuff they just have to swap in and out and they're good. But like, at a collegiate level and what I'm at, which is called a mid major here in the States, it's a mid major level. We don't have the capabilities of like a high major, like even the professional leagues.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is a pain in the ass to like try and find something or try and update something. But it's a mixture of both, at least personally. But yeah, like for WWE, man, I can only imagine what they've got.
Yeah, like the amount of hard cameras they've got, the production just being what it is. Like I'm
Right?
sure, yeah. But like that aside, how was the Royal Rumble? Like how was it being there live at what they now call a premium live event, but pay per view? Like
Yeah,
one of the big four as well. Like what was that like?
dude, I we're 8 days removed, and I still miss it. That's like it's one of those things where it's like, man, like right now, like my bank account is really hurting. But like you're telling me I could go to a once in a lifetime? Like when will I get to go to a Royal Rumble again? You
Of
know?
course.
Like no one knows. Like I don't know. Like and it's an hour away. Like why wouldn't I go?
Yeah.
And dude, like I don't know how in tune are you with like the internet wrestling community, the just in general.
Not as much now as I would have been before,
Mhm.
especially since AEW, not so much. But I think the problem I have with it right now is I'm not sure what's real and what's kind of,
Hmm.
in terms of when people put up posts about it, I'm not sure who's being serious or who's like trying to joke and just like
Right.
what's rage bait and stuff. So I'm not really kind of as in deep as I was once upon a time, but ish.
Yeah. It's just being there, watching Jey Uso win. You know, like John Cena, obviously one of my favorite wrestlers.
Hmm.
Who isn't John, and like seeing Jey Uso eliminate John Cena, it's like, damn, John Cena really didn't get there. And then like 5 seconds later, you're doing the yeet with Jey Uso. It's one of those where it's like it was so infuriating once I got back to my hotel, scrolling Twitter, like one does, like trying to like see, and people are upset, and it's like I just paid $200, and that was the best thing I've ever experienced in my life. Like, this is not the wrong decision, like at all, and it's just like, man, I'm a firm believer that going to live events for wrestling is way better than watching it on TV.
Oh, for sure.
Um, and like that once in a lifetime thing, and just getting to experience that with 70,000 other people,
Yeah.
like that'll live on in my memories for the rest of
That's
my life.
amazing. Honestly, I love that. Like that's I 100% agree. Like I think seeing it live and so like you saying about like sort of scrolling through Twitter, seeing people hating on the fact that Jo so won, right? I kind of one of them people. Like I didn't love it, but on like say 8 days removed, I'm kind of like looking on hindsight. For me personally, I'm kind of like right. Um, it wasn't cliche because like even
Mhm.
though he's on had all this momentum at the moment, he was never a front runner. No one ever really would had
Right.
his name in the hat,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of I like that aspect of it. The only thing for me is that I don't think he's like a believable main event champion.
Oh,
Like
I'm agreeing with everything you're saying here.
yeah.
It's just, yeah, I 100% agree. But like you said, like who are the top four that you were expecting to win the Royal Rumble?
Oh, it was gonna
Ro,
be
ro,
between Roman, Cena,
yep,
Punk, and
yep,
Rollins.
yep. Those are the four that I had in my mind, and it's like when they did the spot of CM Punk eliminating Rollins and Reigns,
Yep.
you're like, holy shit, like this
Yeah.
is something. And then they had Logan Paul eliminate CM Punk, and you're like, okay, this was not in my cards. Like
Yeah.
even like having Cena in my top four, I was like, I wasn't. Cena was in my top four to win. I wasn't expecting it though.
Mhm.
So like the fact that he was in the final three was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's something going on here, and like that's something that you just wouldn't trade for the world. You're getting to experience like it. People say wrestling is scripted. Sure, I get it, but like when you're into the world of wrestling, you script things out for yourself.
Oh yeah.
That moment burned the script. You are going in blind at that point. You're like, okay, what's going on now? Like what I'm stuttering because that's exactly how I was feeling that night. Like, what do I do? You know?
Oh yeah, and like I'm sure like, when you're at the event live itself, I watched it with my wife on the sofa, and it
Mhm.
was one of them things. It was kind of like you kind of hand on head, like it's like
Yeah.
you're not really taking in the full atmosphere. I genuinely believe that like if I'd have been there myself, I probably would have loved like I would have been way more into like the end result and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And but like I agree with what you're saying. Like being there live, you're taking in so much, and like you say, you'll remember that forever because like it's like you say, you're putting everything in your head like that. You're kind of you're living out the story as well, and it's like what it is. It's storytelling and it's
Yep.
entertainment, and it's in its own right. There are some similarities that cross over in terms of like what we do on camera, playing a video game.
Mhm.
Kind of like trying to improve at something. You're creating your own narrative. You're vibing with people. That there
Right.
is like I feel like there's like a big crossover, and like,
Hmm.
ah, man, like yeah, I, yeah, I definitely don't think like the TV does it justice, man. I think you have to be there
Yeah, it really doesn't, and you won't know until you go. You
for
know,
sure.
like the biggest gripe. is that like the city that the Royal Rumble was at, Indianapolis. It is like known for being a quiet crowd,
Really?
and I could tell you from being there that it wasn't quiet, but you don't know that unless you're there.
Oh, for sure,
You
for
know,
sure.
like you can obviously there's some arenas, there's some cities where like them being loud picks up really well. But like it's just it's funny to see like, oh, they sucked, the crowd sucked, they were quiet, and it's like, no, we weren't, man. Like
Oh, for sure. I can imagine. See, like my own personal experience in terms of like live wrestling is for WWE anyway. It would be 10 years ago this summer. NXT did a show in Belfast, which would be like the closest city to me in Northern Ireland.
Mhm.
And but this was like, NXT 10 years ago, an entirely different thing. So
Yeah,
the main event was Finn Balor and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Samoa Joe and Austin Aries tag team match.
that's a good match.
Like,
That's a great match.
and this was as well at the same time. This was like whenever Bobby Roode had debuted.
Mhm.
He hadn't made his TV debut yet at this point, but he made. I think it was at Download Fest was when he actually made his debut. Um, but like because they for some reason at that time they had like an NXT show, like a live show at Download, which was a bit strange.
Mhm.
But I remember this, but like the only my gripe with that was like this was before Glorious, like that
Yeah.
ultimate theme tune that he had. He
Yeah.
didn't have that came out to whatever, but like everyone knew who it was, and it was, but it's the same sort of thing. Like I could have watched that on TV and thought that was entertaining, but when you're
Mhm.
there live watching it, like something that I've always been kind of interested in is the sound carries when they hit the mat. The sound
Yeah.
carries through an arena now. Like this arena is like a 12,000 seater, so it's tiny, tiny
Mhm.
arena, but it carries. The sound carries. Like holy shit, And I think it goes towards like it goes for like a lot of like events. Just seeing it live is better.
Yeah.
Seeing it live
Yeah.
is like
Absolutely.
better. This actually neatly brings me on to like my next sort of thing I wanted to talk to you about. Like, and that's on about hobbies and interests like outside of stream. So we covered like wrestling fan.
Mhm.
Um, So what other sorts of stuff would we be talking about? Like I know obviously you're into your sports as well. And is that like part due to it being like a part of your job, or is it like something that you are just generally interested in like on the side? And what other sort of stuff would we be talking about in terms of like your hobbies and interests and like in particular like things that your community might not necessarily know about you?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time I'm watching sports. That's just as long with the video games. Like that was my childhood, watching sports with my dad, and that's just how life was.
Yeah.
I'd come home from school and there'd probably be a baseball game on, or something else, and that's just been my life. And get it's one of those things like we talk about COVID like disrupting a lot of things, but like that was such a constant in my life
Yeah.
was watching sports. And like when it all got taken away, you're like, holy crap, like there's nothing to do. But like, yeah, that's just been a super constant in my life is just watching sports. I played a ton of sports when I was a kid. Right now I'm getting into golf. I'm
Oh,
really
nice.
enjoying golf. So I can't wait till the weather gets warmer here so I can finally shoot 70 over par again. But yeah, like most of the time it's just watching sports. I'm not a person. It's just how I've been. Like I play golf, but like that's probably my extent to going out. But yeah, I mean, I used to be really into disc golf. That was a good thing for a couple of years. I haven't recently, but chess guy. Um,
Chaska?
Yeah.
Oh.
So again, it's been a hot minute, but yeah, I used to be super into chess. But yeah, it's mainly just if I'm not watching sports, I'm playing video games, and if I'm not doing either of those, I'm listening to music or I'm listening to podcasts, and I've started to now, like now that I'm getting older and You know, you can have your opinions on life or whatever. You know, are we all gonna die in 10 years? Are we all, you know, what's gonna
Yeah,
happen? You
for
know,
sure, dude.
I've started to adopt the mentality of if I want to go do something, just go do it. You know,
100%.
like even if it costs money, like money will be there again. You know, you
Yeah.
can't you can't trade those experiences of going to the Rumble
Yep.
or going to concerts or going to sporting events. You know, there's you can't replace that, and you don't know what it is unless you go do it. And
Absolutely.
I think you know that's like something I need to like. Not only am I adopting, but I feel like I need to adopt more. You know, is just traveling and experiencing things. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Like people will say, your money will come back. Go and
Hmm.
do while you can. Go and do these things. I think that's like an incredible. I think it's an incredible way to live life, and I think it's how people should live life. You know, because why restrict yourselves? Like because
Right.
if you're gonna do that, then realistically, especially if it's at the first hurdle, you're the one kind of restricting yourself in terms of doing things like that. Like, the reason you can't do it is because, I mean, obviously, like that doesn't necessarily go because sometimes there are genuine reasons, but like if you find yourself that
Right.
you can do something, why not go and do it? Like you said,
Yep.
go to that concert, you know, go to the sporting event. Like in concerts as well is a huge one because I think that's like just as relevant. Like I say, we don't know if we're all going to be here in 10 years' time. Your
Okay.
favorite band, are your favorite bands still going to be there next year? Kind of thing.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
there's definitely so many bands for me personally that like I never got to see that I probably had the chance to see, and it's like kind of it sucks. Like you know, it'd be like you look back and think I could have seen that person for like 30 quid, you know, like 30
Hmm.
pounds, like you know,
Yeah.
5 years ago, and now it's like gonna cost you an arm and a leg, sort of thing.
Right.
Um, you know, and like I think as well, even you know, being here in small town Ireland, like it's probably similar to the self for yourself of where you're from because like excuse me, whenever like a band tours, it's like how do you know they're going to be in your city?
Right.
Like it's the sort of thing. It's like I imagine that US tours of bands are probably way more exclusive than they would be in the UK. Like in the UK,
Hmm.
they've got like maybe plenty of venues, plenty of places, but like you only ever go for like the highlights.
Right.
Obviously, I don't know what it's like, you know, states, but I imagine it's probably they might do like a say Western, Central, Eastern
Hmm.
kind of tours, or pick and choose some places about there, and then Canada as well. I don't know exactly, but I
Right.
imagine it's probably still quite hard to go and see like a band live,
Yeah.
depending on where you are.
Yeah. Most of the time, you know, I don't know. Like I had to travel to go see bands,
Mm-hmm.
just because like um if you ever like get tapped into like the American side of the fan base of whatever band you enjoy, you know, you can insert whatever band, and they're like, "Why aren't you touring this city? Why aren't you touring this city? Come to this state, come to this state." And it's like they only have so much time, especially like for us, like you know, Electric Callboy, they're a German band,
Yep.
so they're they're not going to be touring the United States often. So it's like you got to think about okay, they probably didn't go to Florida or didn't go to Illinois because they don't have the time.
Yeah,
You know, like their families are 8 hours away across the huge body of water. You know, I don't blame them for only doing like 15 dates because they want to get home and be with their family. You know,
that's it.
like
Like you
and
know, and the cost as well that comes with it.
yeah,
One thing I've noticed as well, like about the cost of tickets to go to see a show in America. Like I've like looked just out of pure curiosity, like depending on the band, like if you're going to see a band in like a small arena, like are you're looking at like sort of the cheap seats would be like $100. Would I be right in saying that?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
insane.
yeah.
Like I couldn't fathom that because like for here, an expensive show in like a sort of small arena type venue, we wouldn't really have any. Well, I say we only kind of sparse on arenas here, like but saying like, if you're going to like go to a show where it's like 1,000 sort of capacity, an
Mhm.
expensive one would be like about the equivalent of maybe $80 or something. That would be an
Mhm.
expensive one, depending on who it is. But average, you know, like say for example, I'm trying to think. Whenever I saw Alter Bridge, I think that cost me about the equivalent of about $65 in like a 1500
That,
people venue.
that seems reasonable to me.
Yeah,
I
like I thought
mean,
that would have been incredibly like cheap compared to what I'd seen
yeah,
prices in America. Like you know.
yeah. Like, I think the last concert I went to was $80, and it was just standing room only. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's and it is the last one I went to was, like I said, standing room only. I think it fit like what you said, probably upwards of 1,000 max.
Mm-hmm.
And like standing room is $80, which I balk at like $100. Like that's kind of where I'm like, okay, I'd rather not,
Yeah.
especially if it's a band that I want to see, but like, okay, I'm not, you know,
But
super
who was the band that you saw?
the plot in you. Yeah.
So if they were to play so if they were to come over to Ireland, they would likely do like a club venue, say
Hmm.
maybe to about 400 or 500 people. That would probably set you back about $40 probably here.
That
That's
that
probably
yeah,
what you'd be looking at over here.
that seems perfect in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like
Like
that seems pretty good.
which I think is absolutely like it's crazy to me, like the
Yeah.
difference. And I think obviously it does come down to like venues and stuff, and but like I noticed I noticed like the absolute difference, and like it's like like 3 years ago, me and my wife went to New York, and we went to go see Knicks, and
Hmm.
like well, I think we were very lucky. We got the tickets that for I think a total of about $70, $85, something, some around that ballpark resales. We got very lucky,
Hmm.
but like some of them were like, you were talking maybe like 90 to 150 each for
Ooh.
nosebleeds, like
Yeah.
crazy.
Like I'm trying to think. Like the last hockey game I went to, um, I think it cost $90, and then we weren't anywhere close. Like we were up in the
That's insane.
nosebleeds. It's just, and they get you. I don't know how it is at sporting events over there, but like, or even concerts in general. Do they pile on like $50 worth of fees? Because like, it's
um,
it's crazy here. Like
sometimes.
Ticketmaster, like they'll sell you on the ticket price, which is like $80, and then you're
Mhm.
going to the checkout and it's like 130. That's not what you know.
Yeah,
It's
so
crazy.
Ticketmaster here, it would be maybe about it depends. So I think it's like a percentage that they end up
Hmm.
taking. So eh, it's kind of weird though because like some bands will have it built into the price,
Hmm.
others not so much. So I've seen it before where like it said like a show was like £70, maybe close to $100. That's been the price. Um,
Nice.
but other times you kind of know that you're gonna be paying like an extra 10 or 15 on top of it because of the price. I think it's like 10% or something crazy like that. And
That's insane.
but like it's a scam because they obviously have like a monopoly over ticketing,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
they just sort of they rip the arse out of it. But I know sometimes it does come down to the band as well. So like Blink-182, they toured the UK 2023. And
Hmm.
I didn't see them until a year later because they rescheduled a couple of dates. But they had their pricing set similar to that if you're going to buy a flight. So if the more interest like a flight gets, the higher the price goes. It just drives up the
Yep.
price based on people searching it. Not even people buying it as such, but people searching it at a very minimum. And it got to the point where like rear standing tickets were going up as far as about £300, which I think would be nearly $500. And
That's
people
insane.
were buying it, man. People were buying it, and then we got lucky in the sense so the show had sold out, but then production side tickets had been released, so sold all their allocation out and then had extra tickets. Like once they kind of, I'm assuming the production hold tickets are like once they figure out the sort of stage layout and they can be like, okay, there's going to be seating here, sort of good enough of a view. I think I'm not sure, but that's my guess. We ended up getting them for £55. Um, yeah, like 55, and
Uh,
then add on, whatever the service charge was, but it was under £65. Like, it
that's really
it
good. Yeah.
yeah, and we were literally stage side, so we were overlooking, like, so like they played in like the local arena, which is like where the ice hockey team plays, and they came out of like the players' entrance onto the stage, but like feel like I'm here. The stage was directly in front of me on the side, and it was just like, I mean, I couldn't really see Travis, but it was still a great
Yeah.
view for a very low price in comparison. It was
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Man. Yeah. But like, kind of just to, but like, if in your means you can afford it, and it's like not like a balkable price where you're
Oh
like,
yeah.
okay, that's way too much. Like, that's one of those things where it's like, do it. You don't know what you're missing out on.
100%. Like, it means you have to eat beans for a week because that's all you can
Yeah.
afford. Fucking go for
Yeah.
it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Austin, man, it has been incredible chatting to you today on Behind the Camera. I do just
Yeah.
have one more thought for you, like, just sort of something I'm curious about. In terms of your streaming, obviously you've been doing this for nearly 2 years. Mixture of Mario 64, Star Wars Battlefront 2. What does the future look like for you? Like, what are your short and long term goals for your channel?
That's a great question. Obviously, it's a lot about dreams,
Yep.
like I touched on it, earlier, is like, would I love to do this full time? Absolutely. Like, if I could be comfortable enough to do it full time, that's my goal, just because it's something I love doing. But like, yeah, and I think it's just the baby steps. It's mostly just about what I want to do. I want to get better at Star Wars. I want to get better at Super Mario. And I feel like I've been really blessed to be a part of a community that also supports me.
Yep.
It feels weird because I don't want to say it's my community, because it's not. It's not my community. We're all friends, and
Yeah.
everyone comes and supports me, which, like, I am super thankful for. Like, no words can express that. So like, in terms of short term goals, can I hit 1,000 followers on Twitch? That's the goal I set for myself, and if I become consistent, like you brought up, consistency is key. I think I could do it. It's 200 subscribers on YouTube. If I can get there, if I produce
Yeah.
daily content, one day I would. I don't know if I determine this as a short term or a long term goal, but like, creating other content outside of speedrunning.
Yeah.
I would love to do that. I don't know what I would do. I don't know if I have the capabilities to do it, but that would be something I would love to do. So yeah, it's very much like, I'm still in the mindset of, this is just a side thing. I don't, if this, knock on wood, I don't want it to happen, but if this falls flat tomorrow, I'm okay. Like, I've got the job that I love. That's well and good, but like, yeah, if I could continue to grow, as a streamer, and get, more viewers or more subs or whatever, that's my short term goal and long term goal. But if not, then oh well.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, you're still doing something you loving. You have a
Hmm.
job that you love, which is and like at the end of the day, I think you can fall back on both of those things. You can fall back on
Right.
your streaming, you can fall back on your job, and if it doesn't work out, as you say, I'll touch wood, of course, but you've given it a go. You've done what you
Hmm.
can, and like
Yep.
regardless, you still loved it, and you change it for the world. And I
Right.
think that's like an important mindset to have with that, because you never want to kind of go through life with these kind of regrets, like what we were just
Hmm.
talking about before. Just, if you want to do something, do it. I always think that if you don't, the worst thing, or no, if you do, the worst thing that's going to happen is it doesn't work out. You're back in square one. You're back where you are right now, and you know what? That's fine. You're not any worse off. So
Right.
what's the risk?
Hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
But yes, Austin, it has been absolutely incredible chatting to you. I appreciate you taking the time
Yeah.
to come on behind the camera with AndyGames. It's been incredible getting to know you a lot better on a gaming level, on a personal level, just everything. And I'm very, very excited to see what the future brings for you and for your channel. Yeah, thank you again.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been a great episode. I appreciate
Yeah.
appreciate the time. Everybody who has tuned in, thank you so much. This has been Behind the Camera with AndyGames. My name is AndyGames. My guest today has been AustinH2714. You can find him on Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, all the socials under that. We will be back again very soon with another installment of Behind the Camera. But until then, thanks for tuning in and peace.
See ya.